in episode 10, we will be diving into the world of relationships from the Christian experience lens. And it's going to be really fun. We have some really good discussion topics today. So we are going to jump right into it. And so if you want to set the stage for us, beloved.
Yes. So today our episode is going to be about modern day relationships and all that encompasses that. The dating, the being single, what that looks like for, your young person that's out there trying to find something serious and that being, a God or biblical marriage. So we're going to dive right in by looking at our first question, which is, in what ways can we be intentional about godly, intimate relationships in a society that promotes casual dating?
That's real good. And I think that's really timely. I was telling you about, I just recently had a conversation with some friends about really what does it mean to be dating in this time frame. And I always say you date for marriage. So like if you're dating someone and there is no end goal, then that should be like a red flag from the beginning. Like, why are we here? Um, and I know like in my relationship, like we had a timeline, like we dated and we knew by X year we wanted to be married, by X year we wanted to have this next major move. And I think that's really important whenever you are dating. With casual dating, though, it's more of the norm to just kind of play it by ear. Just giving each other the title of boyfriend and girlfriend is not something that people are um, on, on board with. They're like, well, let's not just push it. We're just talking. And a year later, no, we're still talking. So we're just talking forever. We're just gonna forever be in this cycle of talking. And so I think being intentional when we're trying to do godly dating in this society is just really hard because everybody else is not on that same page. And you have to find people who are evenly yoked as you whenever you are finding your significant other. And that's another thing that's so difficult because religion is one of those things where people are either in it or they're not. And if they're not, they're very vocal about it. You can see it in their lifestyles. You can see it in their walk, their talk, in their everyday experiences. And so if you are a little bit more intentional and you're like, hey, I want to date for a purpose, do it biblically, you might find yourself single, unfortunately. So that's what I would say. I would say like it's really difficult, especially if you're trying to have those conversations really early on. I know like you could speak to this a little bit. Like if you tell another person like, hey, I want to intentionally date and I want to eventually get married. What they hear is, I want to get married, have a kid, buy a house right now. Like they hear right now instead of you're speaking it from the lens of biblically dating and dating for the purpose of procreation, for the purpose of um, going into that holy covenant of marriage as God's design. So I think that's what I would say. But feel free to jump in, beloved.
I know you're married, lovely, and I'm the one that are in these streets, as they say, these dating streets. They're very interesting. You need a plan. You need some type of Google Maps. My Google Map is the Bible, right? Because it definitely does help you protect your heart in a world that is very divisive. A lot of people are out there casually dating, but with the intent to either waste time, get something out of you, whether that's your energy, whether that's your money, whether that's your body. So being able to navigate that in a world where that's just become normal, it's not even disrespectful anymore for someone to just spend time with you just to use you. Like that's just a normal thing. And it's like, oh wow, So you brought up a great point with the sense that when you do go into dating intentionally, especially in these days, and state that, it's seen as, whoa, you're doing a lot there, buddy. Slow your roll. But in their head, when it comes to dating intentionally, it's a vibe. Let's just feel the vibe. Let's just take our time. Let's just move by this wind. And it's like, what is this wind? What's this vibe? Can you describe this to me? Because I'm true. I just all I see is just leaves and grass, and nothing is moving, nothing changing. So, just to answer the question, in what ways can we be intentional about godly, intimate relationships? I think you brought up the great point of stating it initially, right? Because you're going to drive away a lot of people by being firm on your standards when you go into a dating situation and be like, hey, I am an intentional dater. I am a person that wants something serious and wants to date for marriage. Am I saying that I want to be married tomorrow? No. But what I am saying is I'm moving with a purpose. If that's something that you align with, let me know. But if not, let's separate and go our separate paths. And typically that tends to snap people out of it, like, oh, she's just not here just to enjoy a good time, but or just have a good time. But I also think using prayer as well. I think in a society where we connect with people so easily, right? You can just go on a dating app, meet anybody. Like I can meet somebody in 15 minutes. Maybe I'll see you downtown, meet me here. But in reality, you need to be praying before you just start putting yourself in these arenas with people that you really don't know well, and just using wisdom. And I think people have made dating so casual to the point where you're not even thinking like, I need to get to know this person. Like for me, you gonna have to talk to me before you just take me out on some date. I'm gonna need to see your face, your phone number, something where I'm like, okay, is this person, is there some sense of something where we can actually make a connection if we didn't meet the person? So one, I think stating what you're actually looking for and standing by it. And then two, when you're going out on your dates, is making sure that you actually know the people, prior to, and not just leaning on your own understanding, as the Bible says, and using prayer and wisdom to be like, God, is this somebody who's actually worth meeting up with? Because yeah, y'all heard, there's been some crazy stories of women who have unfortunately lost their lives, men who have been robbed because they just want to be out here to find.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like the other side of that conversation is being willing to be still in that time of waiting for your significant other. Because if you're not willing to have that patience, if you're not willing to like take that pause, vet these potential significant others, then you will find yourself in situations where you're like, well, I'm just going to date to date at this point. I'm dating so that I can have another warm body. I'm dating so that I can, check off another box. And when you're doing that, you're leaving God out of it, one, because this person that's in front of you may not be your person. That might be the person for a season to teach you a lesson, but you're like, oh, this is mine. And you gravitate and you hold on to it because you are just so eager to lock in something. And I think like that's really the enemy right there, letting you know, like, hey, you got a clock. Hey, no one's gonna be left type of thing. And that's not that mindset. If something is for you, it will always be for you. No, and then like nothing that God has for you will stand in the way of that becoming for you. And so like we have to enter this place of stillness, of calmness, of faith, and knowing that your person, the right person, will come in time. It's not going to be tomorrow. I do know we have social media and we can left swipe, right swipe, and something appears before us. But just because it's easy doesn't mean it's right. So doing it the right way is the harder thing because everyone's so casual. They're catching the vibes. Like, is the vibe in the room with us? Like, what does that even mean? So just taking that moment of pause and really discerning, is this my person? If my intention is to meet a godly individual, if my intention is to be with someone who is evenly yoked as me, am I doing what I need to do to ensure that that is happening? And if you're not, and you just find yourself in this casual dating arena, maybe you need to back away from it a little bit, reassess, you know? So that's what I would suggest. Take an assessment. Where are you? Where do you want to be? And if that's not in alignment, we might have to go back to the drawing boards just a little bit.
That's great. No, that's a fantastic point. We're going to move along to the next question that we have. It says, how has Christian courting changed within the past few decades?
Ooh, go ahead, jump on that one.
Ooh, how is Christian courting? So personally, I have not been in a courting situation, or been in a position to court, or be in that process. But based off what I've seen, obviously my parents who went through the courting process themselves and relayed their stories to me and my brother when we were younger, I could say it's changed because it doesn't even exist. Okay, people don't understand what courting is. Like, it now, everything is just dating, and then after you get done dating, you get married. But I think courting was so crucial because it added a level of seriousness to your relationship, right? Because, okay, hey, you vibe with a person, they're great, you love them. Now the courting phase is like, okay, hey, if this is really what we're going to do, we're going to go through a process. We're going to have advisors. We're going to bring our pastors into our relationship. We're going to bring our families into our relationship. We're going to get analyzed and seen as individuals to see, are we truly built to actually build a firm foundation and make a family together? So I think nowadays it's just been so casualized in dating where courting is seen as something that is archaic or something that's not necessary because we supposedly have all this knowledge now, right? We have all these books. We have all these gurus out here that tell us, just as long as you love yourself and self-love, and they just give you 5 little bullet points and think you're good. And it's like, nah, like, you need other people in your relationship, and you need to have a sense of structure when it comes to building that process to marriage. And I think a lot of people don't realize that God did not just build marriages for just your feelings, right? He built them so you could actually be a stable representation of the body of Christ, right? So there's structure, there's responsibilities that a woman has, and responsibilities that a man has. But society has love bombed it, put it into a little movie theme, and now people think, oh, getting married is just, we just walk into the wind in our little sailboat and just enjoy life ever after. And it's like, nah, that's the first step, and it ain't even the full one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have a lot of information on this point because I know that you recently got married a few years ago. So what would you say, or how you believe courting has changed in the past few decades?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the key thing about the courting part is that it's a public declaration that two people are taking something very serious and moving in the direction of marriage. And so that public declaration part is something that has changed because we are so prompt to be like, well, it's my relationship, it's private, we're going to do it in the dark. Y'all don't need to know about that until y'all need to know. When I pop out married, I am married. That is the theme that we see. And I think like that goes into modern dating, modern ideologies for marriage, and then biblical dating, biblical ideologies for marriage. Because the Bible lays it out for you step by step. And it's a holy covenant. Like when you're going into a marriage, it is a holy covenant. Like you said, are now walking through what was ordained. It's not I'm picking out floral arrangements so I can have this really big party and have this champagne float and have all my bridesmaids pick whatever bridesmaid dress they want because I want to be hip. That's modern dating. That's like vanity in a lot of ways. Marriage is something that is intentional, it's biblical, it is ordained, and it's not just a check in the box. And I think that's the way that we look at it. It's like with marriage, I think they also see it kind of like a contract. You know, we can get married for 2 years and then we'll divorce. No. What? It's not a contract. It is a holy covenant, and that comes with roles and responsibilities that you both need to know Why are we doing this? And when you have that courtship, that's a public declaration. That is you bringing in your advisors, your counselors, and saying that, hey, we're about to walk into this marriage the right way. We want it to be ordained. We want to still be able to serve God in this position that we're in. So we're going to go to counsel so that we make sure that we are doing it the right way. I like that. I like that a lot. I think we should do that more often. And like, really funny story, my cousin who got married a couple of months ago, she was dating this man for about 7, 8 months. He went through the pastor to talk to her. The pastor reached out to her father. The father was like, daughter, this man say he like you, what you trying to do? And it was a council of people who are like, two young people have expressed interest in each other. All right, we're gonna go ahead and let them go on a date. They dated for 7 months. This man proposed to her, moved to Tampa, bought this lady a house. They're thriving. And it was all done at the start of a courtship. Nothing was done in the dark. Everything was done with intentionality and with a purpose and with that holy covenant. And it was beautiful. But if you were to tell that to someone else, why everybody gotta know my business? Why the pastor gotta know? He nosy. He gonna make a sermon about it the next day. That's church hurt. We can cover that in another episode. But it's like, it does happen. It's very rare. But what we see from it happening is that it works. You know, the Bible wasn't just written to be written. It's a manuscript. It's a blueprint. It's doctrine. Why try to mess it up with our own understanding? Like, oh, I know better. Do you? You might. I don't know. You might be a genius. I know I need a little bit of Jesus and I need a little guidance. But you might know it all. So I think that's like the difference.
Mm.
Some people think they know it all. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do courtship. We don't need to let people be involved. It's just me and you until we black and blue. You might be if you not have any advisors to help you figure some things out. So I think that's what it is. Like, it has changed in the last few decades because people don't understand or are willing to accept the benefits and the necessity of it. So that's why it has changed.
Mm.
It's old school, as the kids say. We don't do that no more. We go on Tinder. We go on Hinge. Hinge is the advisor. They have the algorithms and they're going to tell me if this is my man or not. End quote. You know? So that's what we're going to do. That's what they're doing now.
Yeah, I think what's that statement that kids say now? It's a statement. It's like, it looked like you didn't get whooped. You know, like it looked like that's the way this dating looks now. Like you didn't have no home training. Okay, you know, but people bold. It's like the less they know, the bolder they are. So we're gonna move on to the next question, which states, how can we make dating a means to an end to marriage again?
I think it goes back to what we were stating earlier, like really being intentional about it and letting the person know why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really scary. And I know sometimes being that forward is going to shoo the person away. And I think that's exactly what you want to do. Like, if you tell a person, like, hey, I'm dating for marriage, and they're like, whoa, hold on. Let's just feel the vibes. Let's just play house a lot. Let's just do all the things of marriage but not commit. I think that's a really good response for you to know this is not the one. Move on. Like, when you get that response, don't just like go along with it and be like, okay, fine, let's just catch the vibes. I'm so sorry. Because that's what's going to end up 10 years dating. No ring. I'm sorry.
You hit it on the head. And actually, I'm going to have a source for all you fact checkers out there. You know, you want to have a sense of grounding. According to Tim Challies, he had an article called Why Modern Dating is So Difficult. And the quote says, where sex was formerly understood to belong within the institution of marriage and to be bound exorably to procreation and marriage's unique relational intimacy, today it is commonly regarded as merely a biological appetite. So you brought up a great point in the sense the way that people look at sex is really, I think, a root cause of why marriages aren't as strong anymore. There is a looseness about it where now people see sex as like eating breakfast, eating dinner. Like it's just human nature. It doesn't have to be a part of anything. It doesn't really mean anything. So without that meaning when it comes to sex, that is maybe not the most important thing in a marriage, but that's what God says, which makes two people one. So if you're over here making 21s with all these people out here in these streets, you're really confusing everybody but the enemy. The enemy knows. The enemy is the only one that's like, I understand. God is looking at you like, where is he going? What's she trying to do? Which one? So I think where we can actually start making marriage a little bit more serious again is by putting more importance on what sex actually means and defining that. And I've heard a lot of young people say, hey, in church, I feel like a lot of pastors aren't talking about sex. What does sex look like? What does sex mean in a marriage? Because a lot of people want to hide away from it because it's like, okay, if we don't talk about sex, maybe the young kids won't have sex and they will be holy and righteous and
Amen.
walk wise. But it's like if a child does not have knowledge, if you don't train up a child in the way he should go, then he's not going to know where to go. And he's going to go straight to whatever is being offered to him. And the world is ready and arms open to tell somebody, hey, it's your body, do whatever you want with it, you know? So I think by honing in the fact that, hey, your body is the Lord's when it comes to Christian dating and realizing, yeah, it's not something that's casual, you know? And you can numb yourself. I think a lot of, especially Christians, have numbed themselves to the meaning of what fornication or having sex out of marriage means. Like, to them, it's like, because they already had it, they don't have that conviction anymore. So it just seems normal, right? Like, nothing's happened to me yet. I'm still good. You know, I'm grown. You know, I know I'm not supposed to be doing it, but in reality, you're really pushing yourself away from getting a covenant that you would actually probably desire for your life and what God would want for your life. So we're going to go to the next question. Is there a biblical way of courting/dating? If so, what exactly is that?
That's a good question. I'm gonna let you go ahead and dive into that.
Okay. So I think in this question, it's basically opening up the question like, what does it look like to Christian date? Because it really has been blurred, to be honest. Like worldly dating and Christian dating is looking alike because everybody's using the same apps, like you mentioned earlier. Christians are using Hinge. The world is using Hinge, you know. So when it comes to everybody going to the same court, it's like, what makes me stand out? I think we did answer this question earlier. One of those things, being bold about what you're saying. Like, hey, I'm here to get married and to take the steps to that. If you're not the person, we'll find out in time. If you don't want to do this, go ahead and have your fun. So I think also, like you also mentioned, bringing in the church, bringing in your family, which is a very scary thing to do when you're so old, right? The world says once you get grown, I'm grown. Remember that little meme that they had? This little short man, he like jumped out of the car. He was super small, but he was like, I'm grown. Or no. Wrong example. There was a 3-year-old. He was in a diaper, and somebody checked him. And in the video, he was like, I'm grown. And he hit his head like he was a grown man and walked away like he knew what he was doing and he couldn't survive a day outside the door. So I think that is, to be honest, us taking this mentality like we know it all when it comes to dating, because in reality we don't. You know, we think we know what we want. In reality we don't. But society says, yes, you do. Like you said, Hinge. What's your preferences? How tall do you want them? what degree do you want them to have? And it's like what you think you want in reality is not the thing that's actually going to connect you to a person, especially a godly person. So if you want to continue on.
That's real good. And you basically like hit it the way that I was going to hit it in terms of like, how do we biblically court? How do we biblically date? It goes back to what we were saying before. One, bring God into the mix. If we want to, if we want to date differently than modern daters, do something different. Don't do what they're doing. And what's really going to make us stand out is knowing ourselves. Like, because like what the other thing I wanted to add from the last question that we had on like how do we make dating a means to an end, understand that your body is your temple. Like you are walking around with a temple. So not letting just anybody come into your temple. You know, not don't have a public temple, you know, where people don't take their shoes off, they just coming in and leaving them up. Like honor your temple, you know, like take pride in your temple and bring God into it. Bring God into everything that you do, your dating life, your friend life, your work life, and just make space to allow him to move. And I think like we, especially when we're talking about dating, we're in the front of it. We're in the front of dating. If you don't take a back seat and let God drive for a minute, you know, like allow him to do what he needs to do, and understand that you don't know everything. I think counsels are very important. I think wisdom is very important. Being able to hone in on someone's wisdom. When I tell you, the amount of success I have been able to acquire, it is because that I knew when to be quiet, when I knew to stay still, to be still and listen, and things just doors just opened up. This man walked into my life. I prayed for my husband after a year of not dating. Like people are coming, hitting me up. I never did the dating thing, but I prayed. I prayed. I took a year. I got to know myself. I grew closer to God, and I told God, I got on my knees and I said, the next man that walks into my life will be my husband. And I said, God, let your will be done. And I let it go. I did not open up not a single dating app because I'm not even that tech savvy, but I married a man in tech. You see how God works? Hey, you can't tell me my God don't be working. I can, if I didn't have a remote control, I would never know how to turn the TV on. But God gave me this husband here. He just be connecting things, and we got Wi-Fi on the TV. It's a smart TV. It's beautiful. I could have never did that on my own. I had to get up out the way, and God had to place him where he needed to be. So, my brothers and sisters, get out your way. Give God that space to really move in your life, and you will be thankful for it. Because it's hard to know everything and take everything on. Y'all ain't tired? Lay it at the altar. Please, just lay it down. Put it down. You know? And that's what I would approach it. How we going to bring it back biblical? Call up JC. Jesus Christ, please enter the room with me as I'm about to go into this date with this person. Lead this conversation, Lord. Be in this place. And let's see how it goes. If they're like, hey, I don't believe in JC, then you got to say, well, it was good to see you. I do hope you have a great day. And you need to get up on your way. But you ain't got to listen to me, though. I don't know nothing.
Oh, I will say that. Amen.
I don't know anything.
Mind you guys, she's in what I would call modern day successful relationship in many ways. So I honestly look up able to be around you and just experience. I was just telling one of my girlfriends the other day, like I remember I came to your house and we were just sitting on the couch, we were watching movies, and when your husband came into that house, you went into military mode. Like you just switched up. You said, it is about you, husband. How can I serve you? I was like, oh my God. You know, so just seeing that, like that honor of marriage and just young millennial, in a young millennial sense, is so powerful. And I don't think that example gets pushed a lot in society. It's very much like all the unsuccessful relationships, and this person broke up, and this celebrity that made it, you know? So when you actually get to have people like yourself, like in your life as a single young person, I'm like, wow, like this can exist. Like this isn't really too far of a fetch when you put God in the center of it. Like two people can operate in the society, and not everybody is on this whole in the streets and trying to be crazy. So I just want to add that point. I'm very grateful to have you in my life. Anyway, we have one more last question. So this last question is, how are modern dating norms affecting the success of marriage? Or a better way to put it, how is dating, or this form of dating, stopping people from actually getting to marriage, even if they may want to?
Yeah, I think like one of the ways that modern dating norms are affecting the success of marriage is, again, when we're looking at biblical marriage, we're not looking at vain things. You know, the effects of the relationships is that, you know, like this doesn't work out because they no longer, like I fell out of love with them is like one of the excuses. Like, you know, like I just don't like them anymore. Um and it's like, what don't you like about them? It's like, oh, you know, they gain a little bit of weight, or it's like really minuscule things that shouldn't matter, but we hone in to it so much because we yearn for perfection in modern society, especially with dating. Like we ourselves are not perfect, but we expect perfection from our significant other. And so that affects the marriage, it affects the relationship, and it really affects you yourself, because if you aren't able to discern that no one is perfect and marriage is not a thing where you are just in there for that moment, it's a lifetime commitment. And the love that you have for that person is a reflection of the love that you have for God. You know, like you are coming into this covenant of saying that, you know, I am going to become one with this other person because this is what God wanted. And we're putting God in the center of this because this is what God wanted. This is what was doctrine. This is what it was institutionalized. This is what marriage is. Marriage is not, he's kind of cute. He's 5'3", so it's not gonna work. No, that's not what marriage is. It's so much bigger than that. And when you understand that value are things that you should be looking into. Like, is this a man of God? Is this a woman of God? Is this a person that shares the same family values as I do? Work values, work ethic. Like, you need to be looking at what matters in when you're thinking about building that relationship, not these small things like looks. Because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, people will completely disregard a person because they're not 6 feet. And I'm like, that's very interesting. Are you 6 feet? Oh, you're 5'4". Not even? Oh. It's like, does this matter? Does does height matter when we're talking about coming into a holy covenant with another person? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So I think that's what we really need to like hone in on. The values, the important things. Like, is this person a person who, again, like when we're talking about like evenly yoked, do y'all want the same things? Do you want to serve God and he don't? Or she want to serve God and you don't? Like, where are you at? Temperature check. Are we on the same page? Are we in alignment? If not, then yeah, that's gonna definitely affect the relationship later on in life or down the line. So having those open conversations really early on in the relationship is a way to vet that. Where are we at? Where are you at? If you never talk about it, you might never know. And then, you know, you get into a marriage, and then 2 years later, the girl is filing for divorce, and it's because you can't reach the top of the refrigerator without getting on a step stool. Just like, this is getting out of hand. Like, little, you know, we just got these differences that we just can't work through. We can't work through these differences. What's the difference? something completely ridiculous. It's like, we can't even talk about it. It's like, I just don't love you anymore. Okay, that sucks, you know? So that's what I think is really affecting it. When we're going in there, vanity is leading the way. You need to bring it back to what's on the inside, the values. Bring Jesus into the mix, please, y'all, because it's going to save you a world of hurt later on down the line. So that's how I would answer that.
That's a great point. I'm going to bring up, so I was just telling you, Lovely, a little bit earlier. I just started reading this book. It's called Single, Dating, Engaged, and Married. And it's called Navigating Life Plus Love in the Modern Age. And in one of the chapters, it had a fantastic quote, which I actually lost. Oh, no. Okay, I found it. Anyway, in this quote, it says, in 2011, a consultant to online dating companies published the results from a survey of 39 of the industry's executives called How Has Internet Dating Changed Society? These insiders agreed that online dating had made people more disposable and may be partly responsible for a rise in divorce rates. So earlier you brought up the point where people are literally trying to have these build-a-bear type of matches with people. Like they think, okay, I want to have be 6 foot, live in Korea, have blue eyes, and then, you know, be romantic, and then, you know, give me the soft girl life. So it's just like, girl, that's not how society works. And I think dating has become very much this consumer type mentality. Like, what can I order? Like, you're just picking a show off of Netflix, and it's like you're dealing with human souls. So I think the human aspect of it has really been removed, and you can see that with the way that people treat each other. It's like, even in dating, when I have been on dates, at the same time, right, they may not be what I'm looking for, but I do realize at the same time, this moment can make an impact on them. I could possibly add something to what they may be looking for in the future, even if I'm not that person. But people are quick to be like, oh, she's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then I'm going to just hide and make her pay for the check. Like, stuff like that, it's just, that's how vain dating has become. You know, people don't even realize, like, you're dealing with hearts and people who are, in some cases, being vulnerable. So taking the consumerism out of it, I think will definitely affect, like you said earlier, the success of marriages, because people are going to look for people for what they actually have to offer inside, like that being values, that being character, right? And I think a lot of times people don't focus on the character of a person. I'm going to add this point. Because a lot of times personality can reign when it comes to relationship, right? She has so much charisma. She has so much character. He's so funny. And it's just all these really surface things, when at the core of this person, it's like, how are they going to react when you get in an argument? How are they going to react if there's a financial issue? So that is what their character is going to be. That's what their character is going to stand on. So that's something I've always had in the back of my mind when it went into dating. Like, okay, who is this person at the core? And the person that I know in the back of my head, they're consistently going to be throughout a marriage, like lifelong. Obviously, people change, but there's just certain things that you can be like, okay, this is who this person is, and not who they're trying to, you know, like what birds
put a facade on.
Yeah, what birds do. That's wild. That's what I'll be thinking about dating is, you know, when the male come around and start flapping the colorful feathers. No, don't show me the colors. Show me the nest, what your nest look like. Okay. Have you built anything? Are you working for the Lord? You know, so overall, I think when it comes to this whole conversation that we had today about relationships, it really is about putting God first, right? And one of the scriptures, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And I think that's such an important scripture, because it tells us, hey, once you focus on God, you'll be able to see everything else clear, right? If you're so focused on getting in a relationship, you're going to be blinded to so many other aspects, right? Now you're going to maybe be more swooned because that person is maybe romantic, right? And you feel a little lonely inside, but when you're focused on God, He's fulfilling all those needs. So when it comes to the dating area, you're coming in as whole, you're standing firm, and not in the sense of desperation, right? And I think that's what a lot of people are going into dating they're desperate because they're looking for something more than a relationship. They're looking for God and a human being. And that's the issue. So the moment we can stop ourselves, like you said earlier, take a seat, take a pause, and be like, hey, God, what do you want? Right? Because God knows what we want. He knows everything about us, right? So the minute we can just sit there and be like, hey, God, you take the lead, you take that front seat in our lives, then we can navigate dating and see it a lot clearer for what it is. So if there's any other points that you want to add, Lovely.
Yeah, I think this is a really good full circle moment when we're like really wrapping it up. And one thing I'll add to that is that no one is perfect at all. I'm not perfect. My significant other isn't perfect, but the coveted marriage that we have, because we have God in it, we're always striving for perfection. A lot of things like in our early dating, like when we were dating when we were really young, we didn't know everything. Like one of our biggest thing was that we had like major conversations really early on. We talked about finances, we talked about family, we talked about um all these major things really early on in our relationship, and we worked through it. Like having hard conversations with your person is going to let you know if like this is the person for you or not. And like with every hard point that I brought to him, he never like ran away with it. He sat with it, and we talked it through, we worked it through, and then we went on to the next thing. Like when I'm like, I want to get married, it wasn't like, you know, like a situation like if you would tell that to a person, they'll be like, oh, I gotta get out of here. It's like, well, what does this mean? Like let's unpack that. What is behind that? And then so being able to then open up to like, I want to have a biblical, I want to date biblically in the biblical sense. I want to date with a purpose. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like being able to have those conversations and working through them early in the relationship really put us in a really successful place because we were on the same page. We didn't have to keep guessing like what the next person wanted or what we wanted out of each other. We were very vocal. We were very open, and we were vulnerable with each other. And I think like that's something that has been like kind of taken out of the relationship because no one really wants to be vulnerable because it's hard. You can be vulnerable with a person and then they're like, I'm out of here. And I'm like, that's hard, but I think that's what you want. You want to know who the people are who just want to be out of here, and you want to know who the people are who want to dig in, lean in, and work through it. Find you a worker bee. Like find you somebody who's like, let's work through this, babe. Let's figure this out. Because when times get hard, and if you want to get married, times will get hard. You're gonna need a fighter. You're gonna need a rider, as the kids say, on your side, because life be lifing. I always say this, but I mean it with my whole heart and soul. You know what I'm saying? Life is crazy. Have you seen the price of eggs? Gas prices, bro, don't get me started. Life is so crazy. So to have a person who's like, we gonna get it done together. Thick and thin, wrinkles, old age, broken hip, walker, we in it. That's who you want. You don't want somebody who's gonna falter at the first gush of wind. That's not what you want. And if that's what you're in, you need to pray about it. You need to let God in, and then you probably need to walk up out that door. Amen. God,
Amen.
God is good. God is love. I thank you for plugging in with us for episode 10, relationships. It will be posted within the next 72 hours on both platforms that we have. And we really do thank you guys for tuning in today.
Yes, thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye.